I used to think trust was built on love. But love means nothing when the people you'd give your life for steal from you in silence. The night I opened my banking app and saw the numbers drain from my account, my world didn't shatter with noise. It cracked quietly, like porcelain under pressure. That betrayal lit a fire in me I never thought I had. My name's Lorraine, and before I tell you what happened, tell me where you're watching from. I always love knowing where my story finds its way. Maybe someone out there needs to hear it tonight. I'm 62, a retired nurse from Savannah, Georgia. For most of my life, I believed in working hard, saving quietly, and trusting my family. My husband, Harold, passed 10 years ago, a good man, steady as the tide. When he died, I promised him I'd stay strong, keep the house paid off, and live with dignity. I did just that. I budgeted, cooked for myself, planted tomatoes, and built a cushion of savings that made me feel safe. My rainy day fund, I called it. My son, Daniel, was my only child. Tall, kind, a little lost since his father's death, but with a heart that used to make me proud. When he introduced me to Tiffany, his new girlfriend, I tried to like her. She was younger than him by almost 8 years, with perfect hair, expensive perfume, and a smile that felt rehearsed. Still, I told myself, if she makes him happy, that's what matters. When they got married, I stood in the front pew and prayed she'd see Daniel the way I did, a man worth loving for his soul, not his wallet. But the signs were there early on. Tiffany would make comments, little jabs wrapped in sugar. "Lorraine, you're so old school," she'd laugh, stirring her coffee with one of those long acrylic nails. "You still pay your bills in person? You've got to get with the times." I'd smile and say, "Old school got me this house and a debt-free life." Daniel would chuckle awkwardly, always caught between his mother and his wife. I let the comments roll off because peace mattered more to me than pride. When Daniel lost his job at the logistics company during the pandemic, I didn't hesitate. I transferred money to help them with their rent and groceries. "It's temporary," he'd said. "We'll pay you back as soon as we can." "Don't worry about it," I told him. "Family helps family." And when Tiffany texted me a week later, "You're an angel, Lorraine. We're so grateful," I believed her. The months rolled on. I started noticing subtle shifts. Tiffany stopped calling me Mom and started saying Lorraine in that clipped tone, like she was setting a boundary I didn't understand. When they'd visit, she'd scroll through her phone while I tried to make conversation. One day, she mentioned, almost casually, "You know, it'd be so much easier if you let me set up automatic payments for your utilities. I can manage them for you. You hate all that tech stuff." I hesitated. She was right. I wasn't great with apps and passwords, but something about her eagerness made me pause. "Oh, I'm fine," I said gently. "I like keeping track myself." She laughed softly. Okay, just thought I'd help." A few weeks later, Daniel came by with a laptop. "Mom, Tiffany's great with online banking. She can show you how to manage your savings more easily." He sounded so proud, so trusting that I gave in. I let her sit beside me, her manicured hands typing as she said, "Let's make it simple so you don't get locked out." She helped me log in, adjusted some settings, and wrote my password down, just in case. That was the first mistake. After that, things seemed normal again. I baked pies, watched my shows, and thought I was just helping my son and his wife through a tough time. But little things started bothering me. Tiffany's new handbag that looked far too expensive for an unemployed couple, the brand new TV delivered to their apartment, the way Daniel avoided my eyes when I asked how job hunting was going. Then one Sunday afternoon, as I washed dishes after they'd left, I remembered something Tiffany had said earlier. "Once you go digital, you'll never go back, Lorraine." I didn't know what she really meant by that, not yet, but I was about to learn that sometimes helping means handing over the keys to your own downfall. And I was already standing at the edge. It started with whispers, the kind you can't quite prove you heard, but you feel them, sharp as a needle prick under the skin. One evening, Daniel and Tiffany came over for dinner. I'd made pot roast and cornbread, Daniel's favorite since he was little. While I was in the kitchen, I heard their voices drift from the living room. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. I was just reaching for the gravy boat when I caught Tiffany's soft, hushed tone. "She'll never check the bank statements," Tiffany said, giggling. Daniel whispered something back I couldn't make out. Then she added, "She trusts you too much." I froze. The words sliced through the air like a blade, quiet but deadly. For a second, I thought maybe I'd misheard. Maybe she said, "She'll never check the back statements," or "She'll never check the bag." I told myself my mind was playing tricks, that I was tired, that love for my son shouldn't turn into suspicion. When I walked back into the room, they both smiled like nothing happened. Tiffany stood up to help clear the table. Daniel kissed my cheek and said, "Thanks for dinner, Mom." But I could feel it, that strange stillness between us, like a lie floating in the air, invisible but heavy. I tried to sleep that night, but the whisper wouldn't leave me. "She'll never check the bank statements." The next morning, I brushed it off. I told myself I wasn't one of those paranoid mothers. But small things began to bother me. "My debit card got declined at the grocery store," said the cashier said. "Maybe it's a system error, ma'am." I laughed it off, paid with cash, but my stomach twisted. When I got home, I decided, for the first time in weeks, to log into my bank account. It took me a moment to remember the new password Tiffany had helped me set up. My hands trembled as I typed it in, and then I saw it. 4 withdrawals, all within the past 10 days. $200, $800, $500, to $300, each labeled "Transfer to Joint Account." My eyes scanned the notes beside each transaction. Home improvements, personal expenses, reimbursement. But I live alone. I hadn't approved any of those. For a second, I thought maybe it was a mistake. Maybe Daniel had used the wrong account. Maybe it was some automatic payment gone wrong. But as I scrolled, my pulse quickened. The amounts weren't random. They were targeted. Every few days, small chunks disappearing, like a slow bleed. I sat there staring at the screen until my reflection blurred in the glass. Then I saw one transfer note that made my mouth go dry. For Tiffany, approved by L. Smith. My name, forged. My first instinct was to call Daniel, but something, maybe pride, maybe heartbreak, stopped me. I wanted to understand what was happening before I confronted anyone, so I called the bank. The woman on the other end was polite, efficient, and oblivious to the storm rising in my chest. "Mrs. Smith," she said, "the transfers were made online using your login credentials. The device was registered to your son's address." My throat tightened. "My son's address?" "Yes, ma'am, that's what our system shows. Everything matches authorization." I thanked her, hung up, and sat there in silence. My hands wouldn't stop shaking, not from fear, from rage. I remembered Tiffany's voice again, soft and smug. "She'll never check the bank statements." Well, she was wrong. That night, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I kept replaying every small thing. Tiffany asking about my passwords, Daniel saying, "Mom, it's just easier this way." Her helpful smile, all those tiny moments that seemed harmless until now. I looked around my quiet house, the home I'd worked 40 years to keep. Every corner whispered of trust, of years spent saving, of a life built honestly. And now my own son's wife had treated it like her personal ATM, but I didn't cry, not yet. I poured myself a glass of water, stood by the window, and whispered into the night, "If they thought I'd never check, they're about to learn how wrong they were." I was done being the kind, naive mother who believed love made people honest. Now I was going to find the truth. And when I did, I'd make sure they'd never forget what they took from me. The next morning, I woke up with the kind of determination that only betrayal can breed. My body felt heavy, but my mind was sharp, cold. I'd been a nurse for 35 years. I knew how to keep calm while bleeding inside. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and opened my notebook. For every transaction, I wrote the date, the amount, the purpose listed. Home improvements, personal expenses, reimbursement, lies, typed neatly beside my name. By noon, I was sitting across from a bank manager named Mr. Rivera, a man I'd known since he was a teenager starting as a teller. "Lorraine," he said kindly, "let me pull up your account activity." His fingers tapped the keyboard, the sound echoing like a ticking clock. After a moment, his expression changed, polite professionalism melting into quiet concern. "These authorizations were all verified with your signature," he said, turning the screen toward me. "See here?" I leaned in. My stomach turned. My name, L. Smith, scrawled in digital ink beside each transaction. "That's not my signature," I said flatly. He hesitated. "It's an e-signature generated from an uploaded sample. We have a file on record." "A file?" My heart dropped. "Who uploaded it?" He clicked through a few windows, frowning. "This upload came from an IP address linked to—" He stopped mid-sentence. "To your son's residence." For a moment, I just stared at him. I heard the hum of the fluorescent lights, the faint shuffle of paper in the background. Then, like a cold wave, the truth sank in. It wasn't a hacker or a system error. It was them. I thanked Mr. Rivera, forcing a polite smile even as my insides twisted. When I walked out into the Georgia heat, the world looked the same. Blue sky, traffic, sunlight spilling over brick sidewalks. But it all felt wrong. I'd raised my son to know better. I'd raised him to be better. When I got home, I sat at my desk and opened my old email account. That's when I found it. A message from the bank dated 2 months earlier confirming authorization to link joint access for Daniel and Tiffany Smith. Attached was a PDF of the signature. My name, looped just like mine, but slightly off. The R curved differently. It was close enough to fool a stranger. But I knew my own hand. I remembered Tiffany laughing once over brunch. I used to do design work, Photoshop, digital stuff. I can make anything look real. At the time, I'd smiled. Now that memory made my stomach twist. I stared at the forged form, the false kindness, the smiling lies, and something inside me shifted. This wasn't confusion anymore. It was resolve. I didn't call Daniel. I didn't text Tiffany. Instead, I started collecting proof. Screenshots of every transaction, every email confirmation, every unauthorized transfer. I printed bank statements, highlighting each one in yellow. I even took photos of the PDF files with timestamps. Years of nursing had taught me the importance of documentation. By evening, my living room table looked like a war room. Neat stacks of paper, sticky notes marking dates and amounts. I wasn't angry anymore. I was surgical. Precise, methodical. I thought of Daniel's promise when Harold died. "Mom, I'll always take care of you." I used to believe those words. Now they echoed like a lie carved in marble. When the phone rang that night, I almost didn't answer. But it was Daniel, his voice cheerful. "Hey, Mom, just checking in. How's everything?" I swallowed my fury. "Everything's fine, sweetheart," I said softly. "I'm just getting some things in order." "Good. Tiffany was saying we should come by Sunday for dinner, if that's okay." "That's perfect," I replied. "It'll be nice to have everyone together." He laughed. "You sound tired. You sure you're okay?" "Oh, I'm fine," I said, smiling though he couldn't see it. "Better than I've been in a long time." When I hung up, I stared at the quiet room around me. Every clock tick felt like a heartbeat counting down. If they were going to smile while robbing me blind, then I'd smile too. But I'd be the one watching this time. If they were going to steal from me, I whispered to myself, they'd do it smiling, and I'd smile right back, until the mask slipped. Sunday arrived with sunlight so bright it felt cruel. I spent the morning setting the table. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans sautéed with garlic, the kind of meal that used to bring us comfort. I wanted the evening to look normal, sound normal, feel normal, even if nothing inside me was. At 4 o'clock, I heard their car pull into the driveway. Tiffany's laugh floated through the open window, that high, polished tone that once felt charming and now made my skin tighten. When they walked in, I greeted them like everything was fine. "Daniel, honey, Tiffany, you're right on time," I said, kissing my son's cheek and handing Tiffany a glass of sweet tea. "You two look wonderful." Tiffany beamed, brushing her sleek blonde hair behind her ear. "You're too sweet, Lorraine. You didn't have to go through all this trouble." "Oh, it's no trouble," I said softly. "Family dinners are sacred in this house." I could feel Daniel's eyes studying me. Maybe he sensed something, the calm before the storm. Dinner began quietly. Tiffany talked about redecorating their apartment. "We're getting a marble countertop soon, real marble," while Daniel nodded absently, sipping his drink. I smiled, listening, letting her talk herself into comfort. "So," I said lightly, carving the chicken, "how's the new job going, Daniel?" He cleared his throat. "It's good, Mom. Still training." "And Tiffany, you're still freelancing, right?" "Oh, yes," she said with that practiced smile. "Business is booming. Clients just keep coming in." I nodded. "That's wonderful." We ate. We laughed little. I told them about a neighbor's new puppy, and Tiffany pretended to care. The whole time I was watching. The way Daniel's hand fidgeted under the table, the way Tiffany avoided eye contact when I mentioned money. When dessert came, peach cobbler, Daniel's favorite, I made my move. "You know," I said casually, spooning cobbler onto their plates, "my bank called the other day. Just a routine verification. They asked if I'd authorized a few online transfers." Tiffany's fork froze midair. For just a second, one heartbeat, her smile faltered. Then she laughed, a little too loudly. "Oh, you know how those banks are, always calling about something." Daniel forced a laugh too, but it came out wrong. I smiled gently, folding my napkin. You're right. Must have been nothing." We finished dessert in uneasy silence. The air felt thick. The ticking of the dining room clock sounded like a countdown. After clearing the dishes, Tiffany excused herself to make a quick call. She stepped onto the porch, phone in hand. I followed quietly, stopping just behind the kitchen doorway where I could hear through the screen. "Delete that message," she hissed into the phone. "No, I said delete it. She can't find out yet." Her tone was sharp, nothing like the sweet voice she used at my table. My hands trembled, but I stayed silent. I'd heard enough. When she came back inside, her smile was back in place, perfect and hollow. "Sorry, work emergency," she chirped. I nodded, eyes steady. "Of course." After dinner, I walked them to the door. Daniel hugged me, stiff, distracted. "Love you, Mom," he said softly. I held him a little longer than usual. "I love you too," I whispered. "Always." Tiffany gave me a quick hug and a perfume-clouded smile. "Thanks for dinner. We'll see you soon." When the door closed and their car disappeared down the road, I leaned against the frame, exhaling slowly. The silence of the house pressed around me, heavy but familiar. On the table, 2 untouched glasses of tea still glistened under the light. Hers and his. I walked back, stared at them for a long moment, and whispered, "If they want to play games, they chose the wrong opponent." That night, I took every document, every screenshot, every forged file I'd collected, and placed them neatly into a brown envelope labeled Truth. Tomorrow, that envelope would find its way to someone who knew exactly what to do with it. And when it did, I promised myself, the next time we all sat at a table, they wouldn't be smiling. By Monday morning, my kitchen table had transformed into a battlefield, not of weapons, but of truth. Stacks of papers, bank printouts, highlighted withdrawals, and the folder marked Truth sat like a quiet army waiting to march. I'd slept maybe 2 hours, but my mind was clear. I wasn't the woman they thought they could outsmart anymore. I called Ms. Daniels, my old neighbor and friend, a retired lawyer who'd once handled estate disputes. "Can you come by?" I asked simply. "It's about Daniel and his wife." She arrived that afternoon, her gray hair pulled back in a tight bun, her tone calm but sharp as ever. "Lorraine, show me everything." For the next hour, I laid it all out. the forged signatures, the fake authorizations, the IP trace to Daniel's address. She read silently, occasionally letting out a soft, or, well, isn't that something? When she was done, she looked up, her eyes steady. "Legally, this is fraud," she said. "But since it's family, you have options. You can file a formal complaint or—" She paused, studying me. "You can handle it quietly with leverage." "Leverage?" I asked. "You have proof, Lorraine. You could press charges, but sometimes the best justice isn't loud. It's permanent." I sat back, absorbing her words. The idea of dragging my own son through court made me sick, but letting them walk away with my trust and my money, that was impossible. "Help me protect what's mine," I said finally. Ms. Daniels smiled faintly. "That's exactly what we'll do." For the next few days, we worked quietly. I opened a new account and transferred the remaining funds, every dollar I still had, out of reach. We froze the compromised account. Then Ms. Daniels helped me prepare legal documents, not for a lawsuit, but for something better, a repayment agreement. If Daniel and Tiffany wanted to avoid a criminal record, they'd sign a binding contract to repay every cent, with interest. And there would be one clause, written in the finest print. Defaulting would transfer ownership of their house to me. Ms. Daniels called it insurance. I called it poetic justice. But the real blow came 2 nights later. I'd gone to bed early, exhausted from the weight of secrets. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message from an unknown number. It was a photo. Daniel, standing in a jewelry store. Tiffany beside him, trying on a diamond bracelet. The caption read, "Your generosity really shines." My chest tightened. I didn't recognize the number, but it didn't matter. Someone wanted me to know. Maybe a conscience inside their circle. Maybe karma. The next morning, I drove to their house. The new car in the driveway gleamed, silver, spotless. When Daniel opened the door, he looked surprised, maybe a little guilty. "Mom, everything okay?" I smiled. "Just fine. I wanted to see the two of you." Tiffany appeared behind him, flawless as ever, coffee in hand. "Lorraine, what a surprise!" I stepped inside, eyes scanning the fancy decor. A wall mirror, new curtains, a sparkling countertop that looked suspiciously like marble. My money reflected in every surface. "I love what you've done with the place," I said. "You must have been busy." Tiffany smiled. "We've been working so hard." "I can tell." Daniel shifted, uneasy. "Mom, is this about the bank thing? You know we were going to tell you—" I raised a hand, calm but firm. "Don't insult me by lying twice, Daniel." He stopped. The air grew thick. Tiffany set her cup down, her smile faltering. "I'm not here to fight," I continued. "I'm here to fix." I pulled out the folder and placed it on their table. "Read this, carefully." Ms. Daniels had prepared every word perfectly. Fraud, forgery, legal repercussions, restitution, repayment. The document spelled it all out. Daniel's face turned pale as he flipped through the pages. Tiffany's eyes darted, calculating. "What is this supposed to be?" Tiffany snapped. "Your way out," I said evenly. "Sign it and we can pretend this was a mistake. Refuse and I let the law decide." Daniel's voice cracked. "Mom, you wouldn't—" "Daniel," I said quietly, "you already did." When I left their house that afternoon, both of them sat in silence, staring at the papers that could save them or destroy them. As I got into my car, my phone buzzed again. A message from Ms. Daniels. "Everything's filed. Once they sign, it's official." I looked back at their house, sunlight glinting off that new marble countertop, and whispered, "You thought you could take from me and walk away. Now every tile, every corner of this home will remind you who really owns it." But what I didn't know yet, what I couldn't have guessed, was that the betrayal went deeper than stolen money. Because Daniel hadn't just let Tiffany do this. He'd helped her plan it. And soon I was about to find out just how far they'd gone. 2 days passed after I left those papers on their table. No calls, no visits, just silence. the kind that weighs on your chest like a confession waiting to surface. I spent those days pruning the garden, reorganizing old photo albums, doing anything to stop myself from pacing. But every so often I'd glance at my phone, half expecting Daniel to reach out with an apology. He didn't. On the third evening, my doorbell rang. Through the frosted glass, I saw Daniel's shadow. Shoulders slumped, head bowed. I opened the door slowly. Tiffany wasn't with him. His eyes were red, the kind of red that comes from guilt, not tears. "Mom," he said quietly, "can we talk?" I nodded and led him into the living room, the same room where he'd built Lego towers as a boy. Now he couldn't even look me in the eye. He sat, hands clasped together. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," he began. "Tiffany said we'd pay you back. She said it was temporary." "Temporary," I repeated, the word heavy on my tongue. "Like a storm or a lie." He flinched. "Mom, I just thought—" I cut him off, my voice calm but firm. "You thought I wouldn't notice. You thought your mother, the woman who kept this family afloat for 40 years, was too old, too trusting, too soft to see through your little scheme." He looked down, silent. "Do you know what hurt most?" I continued. "Not the money, not even the forgery. It's knowing that the boy I raised, the one who held my hand when your father died, stood by while his wife stole from me." "Mom, I was trying to protect her," he said, his voice cracking, "by destroying me." He buried his face in his hands. "She said we needed it, Mom, that we'd give it back when things got better." I leaned forward. "Then why the forged signatures? Why the lies? Why the whisper? She'll never check the bank statements." He froze. The blood drained from his face. "You heard that?" "Yes," I said simply. "I heard everything." He looked defeated, shoulders sagging, voice barely a whisper. "She said you'd never find out." "Oh, I always find out," I replied. "I just give people time to reveal who they are first." Tiffany arrived halfway through our conversation, slamming the door behind her. "Lorraine, what is this?" she snapped, waving the signed agreement I'd left them. "You can't threaten us with legal action. We're family." I stood up, steady, every inch of me calm steel. Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't forge. Family doesn't humiliate their elders and call it help. She rolled her eyes, masking fear with arrogance. "You're overreacting. You've got plenty of money. What's a few thousand?" "A few thousand?" I said softly. "You think I care about numbers? You took my peace. You took the last bit of trust I had in my own child." For a moment, no one spoke. The air between us was thick enough to choke on. Then Ms. Daniels stepped out from the hallway. I'd asked her to wait in the back room in case things got ugly. Tiffany's jaw dropped. "Ms. Daniels is my legal counsel," I said. "Everything's been documented. If you don't honor the agreement, it moves to the courts. And yes, you'll lose that shiny new house you bought with my money." Tiffany's voice cracked. "You can't do that." "I already did," Ms. Daniels said flatly. "You signed the papers." Daniel looked at his wife, pale, trembling, furious, then at me. "Mom, please, don't ruin our lives." I looked him straight in the eye. "Son, you did that yourself." Tiffany turned on him, screaming, "I told you she'd check. I told you." I didn't say another word. I walked to the door, opened it, and stood aside. "Get out," I said. "You'll hear from Ms. Daniels by the end of the week." Daniel lingered for a moment, eyes glistening. "Mom." "Go," I whispered. He left without another word. Tiffany stormed out after him. When the house fell quiet again, I sank into my chair. My hands trembled, but not from fear, from release. The storm had finally broken. In the weeks that followed, Ms. Daniels handled everything. Tiffany tried to wriggle out of the deal, but the evidence was airtight. The repayments began. Small, bitter pieces of restitution. But deep down, I knew it wouldn't last. People like her never think the rules apply to them. And I was right, because within months their payments stopped, their arrogance returned, and soon enough, that little clause in the fine print would come back to finish what they started. 3 months passed. 3 long, quiet months. At first, the payments arrived on time. Small electronic transfers every 2 weeks, each one labeled repayment of Wron. I never replied, never called, never gloated. I didn't need to. Silence is the sharpest punishment for those who expect forgiveness. Then one day, the transfers stopped. I waited a week, then 2. Nothing. Ms. Daniels sent them a reminder notice. No response. Another week passed, and then came a short email from Daniel. "Mom, things are tight right now. We'll make it up to you next month. Please don't do anything drastic." I stared at that message for a long time. So polite, so careful, so hollow. It was the same tone he used when he was a boy caught lying. The tone that said, "Maybe if I sound nice enough, she won't punish me." But this time, I wasn't that mother anymore. I forwarded the message to Ms. Daniels. Her reply came within minutes. "Default confirmed. We proceed with property transfer." 2 weeks later, I sat in her office signing a small stack of papers. Each signature felt like closing a chapter. Steady, deliberate, final. When I was done, she smiled and slid the last document toward me. "Congratulations, Lorraine. You are now the legal owner of 214 Brookstone Avenue." Daniel and Tiffany's house. The same one with the marble countertops, the silver car, the laughter that used to echo through my calls. Mine now, not out of greed, but out of justice. I didn't rush to tell them. I let the letter from the county office do it for me. That Friday, just after dusk, there was a knock at my door. Hard. Angry. When I opened it, Tiffany stood there, hair wild, eyes blazing. Daniel was behind her, pale and quiet. "You think this makes you a good person?" she spat. "Taking our house? What kind of mother does that?" I met her glare with calm. The kind who was done being robbed. Daniel's voice shook. "Mom, please, we have nowhere to go." "You had 3 months," I said. 3 months to show you meant it. Instead, you chose lies again. This was your choice, not mine." Tiffany stepped forward, her tone venomous. "You think this makes you strong? It just makes you lonely." I let her words hang in the air. Then I said quietly, "Strength and loneliness often live in the same house, but at least I can afford mine." She blinked, speechless. Daniel pulled her back, muttering, "Let's go." They left without another word, their car engine fading into the night. When I closed the door, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt still, the kind of stillness that comes after a long storm. The following week, I visited the empty house. Their furniture was gone, but faint outlines of their lives remained. A nail in the wall, a child's photo left behind in a drawer, the faint scent of Tiffany's perfume. I walked through each room slowly, touching the cool marble counter, the smooth banister, the polished floors, all the things my stolen money had bought. In the master bedroom, sunlight streamed through half-drawn curtains. Dust floated like glitter in the air. It felt less like victory and more like closure. Before leaving, I placed a single note on the kitchen counter. "You thought I'd never check the bank statements, but I built my life by paying attention. Lorraine." Then I locked the door behind me. That evening, as I sat on my porch with a cup of chamomile tea, the sunset painted the sky gold. I thought about Harold, about the life we built through honesty and work, about Daniel, the son I still loved, even if I couldn't trust him anymore. And I thought about all the women like me, mothers, widows, grandmothers, who give too much and ask too little until someone reminds them how powerful they really are when they finally say enough. I smiled to myself, soft but certain. "They thought kindness meant weakness," I whispered, but they forgot. Even soft voices can roar when pushed too far. I took a slow sip of tea, watching the last light fade. For the first time in a long time, my house, my life, felt entirely my own again. Peace. Not perfect, not painless, but earned. And that, I realized, was the truest wealth I'd ever have.